Today on the CTV News at 5. The stalemate continues between protesters and the province over logging at Castle Mountain. Plus, Fortis Alberta wraps up its investigation into a devastating grass fire near Nanton that left 4 families homeless and killed dozens of animals. And West Lethbridge is getting a new curling rink and twin ice arena.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. Alberta Sustainable Resource staff have handed out an enforcement order to stop anti-logging picketers in the Castle River Valley. Provincial staff say they're one step closer to being able to take action against people getting in the way of a logging development. Alicia Fieldberg met with protesters who say they aren't giving up.
Logging equipment still sits covered in snow as picketers against logging in the Castle River Valley stand their ground for the 16th day in a row.
We think that, we have the right to be here, and we certainly are trying to make a point that this forest is far more valuable standing than it would be cut down.
Protesters say they aren't losing hope despite pressure from the provincial government to leave the area. Every day this week, more than a dozen officials from Sustainable Resources, Spray Lake Sawmill, and the RCMP have been visiting the site. When they fire up the logging machines, protesters block the path.
And they were waving it around and snapping it at us over our heads. I have never been more scared in my life, and I was again determined not to move.
Diana Calder is one of 3 people specifically named in an enforcement order government officials handed out Wednesday evening. Calder says the order is just a threat.
Although they've given us lots of pieces of paper, they haven't actually stopped us yet.
Protesters say the local, national, and international support they've been getting outweighs the intimidation they feel from the government. They say it's worth the trouble to stand up for their beliefs.
We're on the side of the trees. We're on the side of the people. We're on the side of the grizzly bears and the trout and the recreationists and the small business owners that have wilderness-based businesses.
Picketers say they intend to do whatever it takes to make provincial officials reconsider their plans for the area.
I think there's several of us that are quite willing to be arrested if that's what it takes, if that's what is going to, get public opinion against these kind of decisions, then I think that's what we need to let happen.
Alberta Sustainable Resources staff have posted separate documents on 3 occasions, letting people know that they're trespassing and need to get off this land. Protesters say they're going to add their own posters reminding the government that this is a designated special place. Alicia Fieldberg, CTV News, Castle River Valley.
Protesters say the province named Castle Region a special place in 1988. The power company Fortis Alberta says a massive fire near Nanton earlier this month was caused by a downed power line. The grass fire destroyed 4 homes, torched hectares of land, and killed dozens of animals, including 60 cats at an animal rescue center. Fortis says the power line was down by extreme winds, gusting over 110 kilometers an hour. Nanton's fire chief Jan.26 does not refute the Fortis investigation, but he says the fire commissioner's office report is not yet complete. The fire department is also looking into whether faulty equipment contributed, as some eyewitnesses have stated. The commissioner's report is expected in the next couple of weeks. Well, Dory, those winds are back, as you said they would be, but so are the warmer temperatures too.
Yeah, and the winds are funny today. We knew it was going to get windy, but at 9 a.m. this morning, the winds were clocked at 5 kilometers per hour. So we had lots of sunshine. And then when the winds picked up, we had that cloud bank push across. We actually got some flurries in Lethbridge and a little bit of mixed drizzle. So it's a real interesting situation with those bands of precipitation moving across BC. Occasionally, we've been picking up a little bit of that activity, but I'll tell you what's in our forecast future in just a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Dory. A Vulcan man is back home 13 days after surviving the grounding of a large cruise ship off the coast of Italy. 49-year-old Dave Healy says the staff were ill-trained and disorganized, but for some reason he never felt afraid or in danger as passengers were being evacuated from the ship. Healy says he was shocked to learn the next day that passengers were missing and killed in the disaster. Healy spoke to CTV reporter Terry Vogt today, and here's what he had to say.
I didn't know what we hit. When I felt that when it shuddered, I thought it felt like he put it in reverse.
49-year-old Dave Healy of Vulcan still has a difficult time believing that anyone could have died in the January 13th grounding. of cruise ship Costa Concordia off the coast of Italy. Healy says he had just finished dinner and was walking through the casino when he felt the ship shudder.
And then it tilted to the one side, and everybody always said not to worry, don't worry, nothing's wrong, it's just an electrical problem, we're working on it.
Healy says he didn't worry, instead made his way to a pub where he ordered a beer.
And the boat kept getting more and more tilted until the glasses wouldn't stay on the cupboards anymore, and all of a sudden somebody ran through saying, abandoned ship, abandoned ship. And I kind of looked around and all the staff were gone.
Healy says the staff were helpful but ill-trained. Even so, he says he never felt afraid. He waited as hundreds of people crowded into lifeboats and made their way to shore. It was only a matter of time before his turn finally came.
I never thought the boat would tip over. And so I never really got scared. The only time I had any emotion that I remember was when we got in the life raft, thinking we're going on an adventure. It was kind of exciting in one way, because I figured the next day we would come back and get on the boat and continue the cruise.
Healy says he was shocked the next morning to see the cruise ship on its side and to discover that people were dead or missing. Do you feel fortunate that you...
Oh, I feel very fortunate that I happened to be at the right place at the right time to get on a boat. When I see it laying there now, I think of what a disaster.
Terry Vogt, CTV News, Vulcan.
Now, in spite of the disaster, Healy completed his trip to Italy. He says the cruise line has promised to reimburse passengers for airfare and other expenses. A Lethbridge man will spend the next 7 years and 3 months behind bars in a U.S. jail for trying to smuggle guns into Alberta. 29-year-old Harley Combray was sentenced in a Montana courtroom Wednesday. Last March, Combray and 23-year-old Kaylee Sinclair, who is also from Lethbridge, were arrested in Billings after attending a gun show. Homeland Security investigators found 12 guns in the couple's vehicle. Both pleaded guilty to trying to illegally export firearms. Sinclair was sentenced to time served, which was 202 days behind bars. After his sentence, Combray will be deported back to Canada. A third Lethbridge resident in the case, 26-year-old Sean Locke, pleaded guilty to weapons charges and was sentenced to 15 months behind bars. Lethbridge police are warning people about the deadly effects of the drug ecstasy. The warning comes after a 21-year-old man was charged with trafficking this week. Police seized about 17 grams of ecstasy in its powder form. It's not known if the ecstasy contained PMMA, which is linked to a number of overdose deaths in Calgary and BC. Officers say it's important that parents warn their children about the drug's deadly effects. Crack cocaine and marijuana are still the drugs of choice in southern Alberta, but police say they do see ecstasy from time to time.
My understanding is that the user out there knows that there's an issue with ecstasy right now, and they are avoiding at the user level as what our special ops members are discovering.
Lethbridge East Conservatives will choose a new candidate tonight. Current MLA Bridget Pasteur and County Reeve Lauren Hickey are vying for the nomination. Balloting begins tonight at the Rocky Mountain Turf Club, 7 o'clock. Now, West Lethbridge is getting a new curling rink and a new twin ice arena. The facility will be built next to the Crossings Library branch and 2 high schools. The new 10-sheet curling facility will replace the 68-year-old old facility in downtown Lethbridge. Today, the federal government announced that they'll be contributing $10 million to the project. The total cost will be somewhere around $40 million. The city of Lethbridge will fund the rest. The facility is expected to open in June of 2015. American retail giant Target has confirmed that it's opening up shop at Medicine Hat Mall. Target purchased the Zellers business unit in Canada from Hudson's Bay Company last year. And there is also speculation Target will open in Cranbrook. Well, staff at a Lethbridge Care Centre have filed a strike vote application. The last time staff at the Edith Cavell Care Centre went on strike was in January of 2002. Right now, there are about 120 union members. The latest strike vote application is the next step in contract negotiations. Union officials say talks stalled last month because the two couldn't agree on health benefits and salary issues. They did meet with a mediator on Sunday, but union staff say they're not any closer to a collective agreement. A date for the staff to vote on the strike has yet to be set. A youth support services program says without the community, they may not be here today. And now they're partnering with an airline to help take its main fundraiser to new heights in its 16th year. 5th on 5th Youth Services has teamed up with Integra Airlines to launch its Investing in Youth fundraising campaign. The organization helps young people through programs and services to reach their goals by providing life skills-based services. The executive director of 5th on 5th says with government funding cuts last year, the campaign has become more essential than ever to running some of the youth programs.
Actually, the last couple of years, or last year's budget in particular, was really hard on our organization, and so the campaign has really become central to helping fund some of our programs that aren't funded by provincial grant money. So we were able to take some of the funding from last year's event and actually leverage that to apply for more grant money. Grant funding that we normally wouldn't be qualified for have gone after, and so we're hoping to continue to do that again this year.
The campaign wraps up on March 31st with a taste of Lethbridge hosted inside the Integra Air hangar. Their fundraising goal this year is $45,000. And speaking of money, the loonie soared higher after Ottawa committed to leaving rates near zero until 2014. Here are the closing numbers.